The night pressed in close, thick with smoke and menace. Elias steadied the shotgun, the firelight painting his scarred face in harsh relief. Shapes moved at the cave mouth, bandits creeping closer, rifles raised, their voices hissing like snakes. His body burned with fever, but his hands held steady. He was ready to sell his life for the girls, and he knew the price would be steep. The first shot cracked. Sparks leapt from the muzzle of Elias's gun, the blast booming in the confined space. One bandit fell with a scream, clutching his leg. Another cursed and ducked back. The cave echoed with thunder, smoke thickening the air. Elias reloaded, teeth clenched against the stabbing pain in his arm. They came harder. Bullets sparked against the stone. The girls pressed against the back wall, whimpering but silent. Elias dropped one more outlaw with a revolver shot, but the others closed in, shadows crawling through the firelight. His chest heaved. He was running out of ammunition. Running out of strength. Then, another sound cut through the chaos. A sharp twang, followed by a scream. One bandit staggered back, an arrow jutting from his chest. Another fell with a gurgle, a shaft buried deep in his throat. From the darkness beyond the firelight stepped a figure, a woman, her hair long and black, whipped in the wind. Her eyes burned like embers, her bow drawn smooth as water. She moved with deadly grace, loosing arrow after arrow, each finding its mark with merciless precision. The surviving bandits panicked. "Apache!" one shouted, scrambling for his horse. Within moments, the canyon floor was littered with the groans of the wounded and the silence of the dead. The rest fled into the night, hooves pounding in retreat. The girls cried out, not in fear but in recognition. They scrambled from the cave, rushing to the woman, wrapping their arms around her waist. She dropped her bow, her hand resting protectively on their dark hair. Elias staggered out into the night, shotgun dangling useless at his side. His eyes fixed on her. This had to be their mother. He felt it in the way the children clung to her, in the way her gaze never left him, hard as flint. He expected rage. He expected her to notch another arrow and drive it straight through his heart. After all, men like him had brought fire and sorrow to her people. He was the enemy. He braced himself for judgment. But Nalin, he somehow knew that was her name, though she had not spoken it, only studied him. Her expression was unreadable, a storm held behind still water. She saw the blood on his sleeve, the exhaustion in his stance, the bodies of the men he had fought off. And she saw her daughters alive, unbroken, standing there because of him. The silence stretched long, broken only by the crackle of the dying fire. Then she moved toward him. Elias tensed, his grip tightening on the shotgun, though he knew he could not lift it. She stopped a few feet away. From a leather satchel at her side, she withdrew something wrapped in deer hide. She unrolled it with deliberate care. Inside lay a blade, obsidian, black as midnight, its edge sharp as glass. The handle was bound with red-dyed sinew, etched with patterns that spoke of generations. The firelight danced across its surface, casting eerie shadows. Nalin held it out to him, not as a weapon raised in threat, but as an offering. Elias stared at it, confusion knotting his chest. His lips parted. "What in God's name?" Her voice was low, broken with the effort of English. "You took blood for them. Now you carry honor." He did not reach for it. He couldn't. His hands shook, not from weakness, but from the weight of what she was asking. He had hunted her people once, carried rifles and torches into their homes. Now she stood before him, giving him something sacred. The girls watched, their eyes wide, waiting. Slowly, Elias extended his hand. The obsidian blade pressed into his palm, heavier than any weapon he had ever held. It was not a gift. It was a burden, a bond, a reminder that he would never again stand apart from what he had chosen tonight. His throat closed. "I don't deserve this." Nalin's eyes narrowed, but there was no anger. Only truth. "Deserve or not, it is yours." She turned back to the girls, ushering them closer to the fire. Elias sank against a rock, staring down at the blade, feeling as though it burned through his flesh. He thought of the faces of Apache men he had seen fall in battle, of children dragged from camps, of screams carried on the wind, and now he carried their honor? It twisted something deep inside him. Later, as the fire snapped low, they shared the silence of survival. The girls slept curled beside their mother, safe for the first time in days. Elias sat across from Nalan, the blade across his lap. Neither spoke. But in her eyes, steady and unflinching, he felt her measuring him, testing him. Not with words, but with silence heavier than any accusation. And in his silence, he gave her his answer. Not with apology, not with excuses, but by enduring her gaze without flinching. The night deepened. Coyotes howled across the ridges. Elias's fever-broken sweat, his body trembling. Still, he stayed upright, the shotgun close, the obsidian closer. A fragile alliance had been forged in fire and blood. Then, from far off, the sound tore through the quiet, a rifle crack echoing through the canyon. Another then another. The bandits hadn't given up. They were regrouping. Elias lifted his eyes to Nalan. She was already reaching for her bow. The night was not done testing them. The true storm was coming. Dawn came like a blade across the canyon rim, slicing through the shadows with cold, merciless light. The wind carried dust and the faint creak of saddles. Elias knew before he saw them, more riders. The bandits had returned, and this time they came in force. The first gunshot cracked the morning wide open. Dirt spat against the rocks where Elias crouched. Another shot followed, then a chorus of war cries. The canyon erupted in chaos. Elias slammed his back against the stone, shotgun ready. "Stay down!" he barked, though the girls already clung low behind a boulder. His heart pounded like a war drum. Nalan was already moving, bow in hand. She slipped between rocks like smoke, loosing arrows with terrifying precision. One man tumbled from his saddle, another dropped, clutching his throat. She did not hesitate. She did not miss. The bandits poured into the canyon, rifles flashing, boots thundering. Elias leaned from cover, the shotgun bucking hard against his shoulder. One rider spun from the saddle, the horse bolting wild. Another fell into the dust, screaming. Still they came. The girls pressed tight together, but they did not hide entirely. The older one darted forward, tugging at Elias's sleeve, pressing spare cartridges into his hand. The younger one scattered loose rocks near the fire, distracting a bandit who stumbled, giving Nalan the second she needed to drop him. Brave, foolish, but brave. Elias roared, firing again and again, smoke choking the air. His vision blurred with fever and exhaustion, but he fought on. Each pull of the trigger felt like the last. A bullet grazed his temple. Another tore into his side, hot and cruel. He staggered, the world tilting. He dropped to one knee, vision tunneling, the shotgun slipping. The girls screamed. He thought it was the last sound he'd ever hear. He lifted his revolver, weak but steady. One last shot, one last stand. Redemption through death. He welcomed it. But before the bandit could fire, an arrow hissed past Elias's cheek. It struck the attacker square in the chest. The man dropped, lifeless. Nalan stood in the open now, bow drawn, eyes burning. She had saved him. She had chosen him. The battle raged on. Elias forced himself up, teeth bared. Side by side with Nalan, he fought, the rhythm of gun and bow a strange, savage harmony. Bullets tore through dust. Arrows whispered death. Horses screamed. Men fell. And then, silence. Only one bandit remained. Their leader. Broad-shouldered, his face cut with scars, his revolver aimed steady at Elias. Elias raised his own, breath ragged. For a long moment, they stared across the dust and bodies. The girls watched, eyes wide. Nalan's bow was drawn, but waiting. The leader sneered. "Do it, old man!" "End it." Elias's finger tightened. Every instinct screamed to kill, to finish it, to silence the threat forever. That was the way of the frontier. That was the way of survival. But he thought of the girls, of the beaded necklace in his pocket, of the obsidian blade heavy at his side, of Nalan's eyes watching him not with rage but with expectation. He lowered the gun. The leader blinked, stunned. Nalan's arrow stayed taut, ready if needed. But Elias stepped forward, voice low. "Go. Don't come back." The man hesitated, then spat into the dirt. Without another word, he turned and mounted his horse, riding hard from the canyon. The silence that followed was heavier than the battle itself. Elias sank to the ground, clutching his bleeding side. He had spared a man. For the first time in years, he had chosen restraint over death. It felt strange, heavy, but right. The girls rushed to him, helping steady his arm. Their faces were streaked with dust and fear, but their eyes held something else now. Trust. Nalin approached slowly. She knelt before him, studying his wounds, his eyes, his trembling hands. Then she reached into her satchel once more and placed the obsidian blade back into his palm, pressing it firmly until his fist closed around it. "You carry it," she said, her voice rough but steady. "Now you carry us." He didn't understand all of it, but he felt the weight. It was not just a weapon. It was a bond, a burden, an honor he could never deserve, but one he could no longer deny. Nalin gathered her daughters, speaking softly in their tongue. The girls clung to her, then looked back at Elias, eyes lingering. One raised her small hand in farewell. Elias tried to speak, but no words came. His throat was thick, his chest raw. He only nodded once, slow, heavy. He watched as they disappeared into the wilderness, their figures swallowed by the rising sun. For a long time, he sat in the silence of the canyon. The smoke drifted. The wind carried away the cries of battle. Only the dead remained, and the living silence. At last, Elias rose. His horse stood tethered, waiting. He mounted, the motion stiff with pain. The obsidian blade rested in his saddlebag, its weight undeniable. He rode slow, the canyon walls rising high around him, the echoes of the fight fading behind. The sun climbed higher, lighting the dust in golden fire. Elias looked ahead, the horizon endless, his heart heavy with ghosts. But there was something else inside him now, something fragile, something alive. Trust. It would never erase the blood on his hands, but it was a start. He rode on, a lone figure against the blazing sky, the obsidian blade glinting as the sun caught it. Both curse and blessing, both burden and hope, and the story closed not with triumph, but with the bitter-sweet weight of survival. Narrator's voice, low and steady. In the Wild West, survival was never just a battle against bullets and hunger. It was a battle for the soul. Elias McGraw had fought the wilderness, the outlaws, and himself. In saving 2 Apache children, he found something he thought forever lost, honor and the fragile bond of trust. A gift heavier than steel, sharper than any blade. Pause. If Elias's story moved you, if you felt the weight of his journey, don't let it fade. Like, comment, and subscribe for more Wild West tales of survival, redemption, and the bonds that rise in the dust of the frontier.